Hey there everybody, welcome to Auto Bears, and yes, I am wearing shorts again, but for good reason. Because this week I have been reviewing the ultimate version of arguably the best hot hatch you can buy, the Honda Civic Type R Limited Edition. When Honda revised the FK8, they actually came back with three versions of the Type R. We had the GT, which everyone knows and loves, the Sportline, which had a more subtle rear spoiler to it, but personally, I don't think it suits the kind of nature and character of this car. And then thirdly, this, the Limited Edition. Now, it is a track-focused version of the Type R, limited to just 20 cars in the UK and 100 in Europe. So I've been very honoured to have this Type R Limited Edition for a week, and I'm going to let you know what it's like and what it's been like to live with as well. I just want to quickly mention that the FK8 is no more. It has ceased production because the 11th generation Civic is on its way, and there's also a Type R coming as well. So that's a car we're all very much looking forward to. But enough about that car in the future. Let's look about this one in the present. Now, when it comes to the Type R styling, I still absolutely love it. It looks mad, it looks aggressive, but really purposeful as well. It actually looks like it's gone from the track straight onto the road from a touring car championship. And that's one thing I really do love about it. And also, well, Honda do pretty well when it comes to touring cars. But also, when you come to the limited edition, you've got this exclusive sunlight yellow paint. You've got the 20-inch BBS forged alloy wheels, which look stunning, although you are very conscious when you're parking next to a curb, but also they do add a bit of weight reduction. But I love all the little black accents and features. I still love the massive wing at the back of the Type R. Yes, it is mad, but at the same time, it must add a little bit of aerodynamic purpose, particularly if you're going over, say, 3 figures, although I've not done that in the Type R this week. But I still think it looks absolutely amazing. But as I mentioned, you can go for a subtle version of the Type R in the form of the Sportline, which is very similar to the Sportline trim of just a standard Civic. And I just think that's a little bit of a waste. I mean, if you're going for a Type R, you want to go for the full mad look of it. And especially even with the GT, which also looks absolutely amazing, even without the sunlight yellow. But I think that's enough of looking at the exterior of this limited edition. Let's see what they've done to the inside. Sat in the front of the Civic Type R, you are greeted with a very driver-focused, very comfortable, and not very well equipped interior, but we'll get onto that in a little bit. Now, of course, this being a hardcore hot hatch, getting in and out of the Type R is actually relatively easy, but you do have to kind of navigate yourself over these seats and into them. Now, shock horror, I have lost a little bit of weight since I first reviewed the Type R way back in 2019, and I do find as well now that these seats really hold me in place, all in the right area. They're not really pinching my kidneys too much like they did before, and even down as well when it's holding my thighs in place, it just feels absolutely brilliant. I don't feel like one of my testicles is about to explode because my thighs are rubbing together, which is always a good thing, and I've just put a horrible thought into your minds, so I do apologise. But there is plenty of adjustment in the seat itself and also in the steering, where you have got both rake and reach adjustments, so getting the perfect driving position is easy. Interior quality is actually pretty good still in here as well. So we have got soft touch plastics here on top of the dash, a little bit here on the centre part of the dash, and on top of the doors with Alcantara on the door panel and on the steering wheel. And that's what you get on the limited edition, as well as a bit of Alcantara here on the centre armrest. Now on the centre console we have got quite a bit of hard scratchy plastic, and it is now just starting to show its age, especially when compared to some of its newer rivals like the Volkswagen Golf GTI. But we have got some faux carbon fibre trim with some red kind of piping here, so it does add a little bit of colour to the interior. But all in all, it does feel quite dark in here, but at the same time, you don't want too many distractions because you want to be focused on driving, and that's exactly what you want in the Type R. Cubby spaces in the limited edition are actually pretty good. We got some relatively good sized door bins. We can get a medium sized bottle of drink in there, but they're not lined with any fabric, so loose items will rattle around a bit. Then in front of the gear lever we have got a little space that is rubber lined, perfect to put your mobile phone or your wallet. And then we have got a little spot underneath here as well, but it isn't rubber lined, but we have got a 12-volt socket. Then just behind the gear lever we have got this little kind of under storage area where we've got 2 cup holders, and we can lift this up to unveil. It's actually got a decent amount of space in here, and it is also rubber lined, which is very handy. And then finally we've got the glove box, which again is of a decent size, but it's not lined with any fabric, so again loose items will rattle around a bit. But all in all, now when it comes to the weight saving areas of the limited edition, there are two key areas in the cockpit that you will notice. The first one is the infotainment system. We've got nothing here, just a piece of plastic, and underneath here we have got climate control, but we've got no air conditioning. So in total, Honda do save around 47 kilos of weight by taking some of these parts out of the car, as well as those BBS forged alloys. So that's actually pretty impressive. However, I feel I kind of undo all of Honda's hard work when I just go in and sit in the car. But then again, you know, I'm not a racing driver, so I don't have a Recaro arse or anything like that. I'm just a guy who loves cars. But we have got some really nice convenience features that still are here present in the limited edition. So as I said, we have got climate control, we have got your drive mode select, engine stop start, along with an electric handbrake and auto hold. We've got the sweetest of manual gearboxes, and I'll go on to that in a little bit. Then on the steering wheel, on the left hand side, we have got your driver data controls. Because we've got no infotainment system, it does mean that there's a few more functions in that to go through on the driver display. So just be aware of that if you do happen to have a limited edition. But on the right hand side, which is actually a really lovely pleasantry, we've got our radar guided cruise control, so I really do like that. And we've also got things like lane keep assist as well as city braking. So these are features I really do like, and they do help you out when you're kind of driving around day to day on your perhaps your commute to work. And that's basically it when it comes to buttons. It's very limited in here, of course, because we've got no infotainment system, but I don't feel as though for this particular car I'm missing out on much, because I know what the Type R Limited Edition is all about. Now, me personally, if I am going to be using the car for commuting, I'd want the regular GT. I'd want all those creature comforts and features there, because they will be helpful on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, for the Type R Limited Edition, having these things stripped out does mean that you've saved yourself a bit of weight, and you've got a car that's ready for the track and actually is going to be pretty special. But we'll get onto how the car drives and that when we get to the road part driving of the review. But yeah, all in all, when it comes to the interior of the Type R in general, it's a really lovely, wonderful place to be and very comfortable. But for the limited edition, again, it feels very driver focused. But yeah, you do feel that if you're going to use this car as a daily driver, you will be losing out on some of the creature comforts that probably you'll end up missing. But you know what? That's enough. I sat here in the front of the Civic Type R Limited Edition. Let's see what it's like in the back. Sat in the back of the Civic Type R, it's really nice and spacious back here, but it is still quite dark and gloomy. Now that driver's seat is set to my driving position. I'm 5'7" tall and 5'7" wide, and as you can see, I've got a really good amount of knee room and I can get my feet underneath the driver's seat. However, if I sit up straight, my head is just rubbing against the roof lining. So if you are 6 foot tall, you might struggle back here. But it is absolutely fine for kids back here. And when it comes to kids, the Isofix supports are really nice and easy to get to, because we've got these little fabric covers that you just pull down to expose the bars. So that's really handy. Cubby spaces are quite poor back here as well. We've got some okay sized door bins. We can get a small to medium sized bottle of drink in there. Again, they're not lined with any fabric. And that's it. We haven't got a centre armrest, we haven't got any aeroplane style pockets on the backs of the front seats. And also there's no charging facilities or anything like that back here, so if your kids have got their mobile devices and they need to charge them up, well, prepare for them to get very cranky with you. And then the other thing I find is that the windows, they're of an okay size, they do allow a nice amount of light in, but they don't open all the way down. And then finally, there is the kind of quality back here. So firstly, on the back of these sport seats, well, it's fake carbon fibre. I mean, I'd love that to be real carbon fibre, but also we've got hard, scratchy plastic all around here as well, which is a little bit disappointing. So all in all, it's actually fine for short journeys back here if you're a short adult, and absolutely fine for kids, but it's just lacking in a few key features. But again, it would be down to the kind of the weight reduction for this Type R Limited Edition. But I'm absolutely fine sat back here, and I could probably do a short journey back here with no issues whatsoever. But yeah, that's enough for sat back here in the rear seats of the Civic Type R. Let's see what it's like in that boot. Opening the boot on the Civic Type R Limited Edition, presents you with 457 litres of space, which is actually a pretty decent amount of boot capacity. Now if you go for the regular GT or Sportline version, that is reduced to 420 litres. But when you get it open, you find you've got a lovely wide square load area, which is perfect for loading any large bulky items. However, when you're taking those items out, you will have to navigate over quite a substantial boot lip, so that's just something to be aware of. Now it's not devoid of features either, but it is actually missing a couple of key ones. So firstly, we have got some tethering hooks, but we don't have a 12-volt socket. And we have got a little bit of underfloor storage, which is very handy. However, we have got kind of your tyre puncture repair kit if you need it, but it doesn't appear to be enough space there for a spare wheel, which is a little bit disappointing. But the one thing I really do love about the Type R, or just the Honda Civic's boot, is actually the parcel shelf here. Now you can see it flapping around a bit, but what I love is that's it, out. It's done. Now I can load large bulky items into the back of the Civic. But for some reason, some people are a little bit 50-50 with that parcel shelf, but I think it's a really novel design and I really like it. But all in all, the Type R is still doing what a hot hatch should do. It's very comfortable, brilliant to drive, and still very practical. And speaking of that driving bit, I think we need to take this limited edition out on the road. Oh yeah, you get a wobbly spoiler as well when you close the boot. Just be aware of that. So once you start driving in the limited edition, compared to the regular Type R, the first thing that you notice is that it feels a little bit more hardcore. It's a little bit more visceral in what you're experiencing. You definitely get a lot more noise coming into the cabin, but the comfort levels very much feel the same. Now when it comes to visibility, it's actually not too bad here in the Type R. We've got a great view of the road ahead. I love the fact that I can see the yellow bonnet and the black bonnet scoop. The A-pillars are actually not too thick, and I've not found myself looking around them at any junctions. And if I look over my shoulder, yes, we have got quite a thick C-pillar there, but it doesn't create the biggest of blind spots because the wing mirrors actually do provide you with a lot of coverage. However, on this limited edition, we don't have blind spot monitoring, so that's just something to be aware of. But you just feel, once you start driving the limited edition, it feels a bit more hands-on. You've really got to kind of grab it by the scruff of the neck, but it's not a bad thing. I mean, it just has this old school feel about it. But of course, this being one of the best hot hatches you can buy, first impressions were always going to be very positive. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are 3 versions of the Type R available. You have got the standard GT, you've got the Sportline, which looks a little bit softer, and personally, I don't think it looks the best. That little spoiler is just more suited to the regular Civic, especially in Sportline trim. And then you've got the limited edition, which is all sold out because there are only 20 units here in the UK. In fact, actually, there might be 21, because I do recall seeing a left-hand drive limited edition arrive in the UK recently. So yeah, you might see a few more of them about maybe. But it is still a very rare and exotic beast, particularly in this yellow paint scheme, which I absolutely love. But there is one thing I will mention about it later on. But yeah, when it comes to the Type R, I mean, now, really, you can't really get it anymore. We are preparing, or Honda are preparing, I should say, for the 11th generation version of the Civic, and also the new Type R. And that is definitely a car we're all going to be waiting for. So when it comes to powering the limited edition, it's the same engine as before. It's a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol unit, producing 316 brake horsepower, 400 Newton meters of torque, which means you've got a 0 to 62 time of 5.7 seconds. So exactly the same. And that goes through the wonderful 6-speed manual transmission. There is no automatic available, and then through the front wheels. So in terms of kind of outright performance, it's exactly the same regardless of which version of the Type R you go for. So why is this limited edition then so special? Well, because you've got that weight saving, it does mean that the handling is where it's at. So that's something we'll talk about in a little bit. But when it comes to the boring stuff, like economy, Honda say I should get around 33.6 miles per gallon on a combined cycle. And I've actually been doing better than that. I've actually managed to get around 36 mpg on my commute to work, which is really good. You know, I mean, especially for this type of car. However, on a commute which is in total, as a round trip, 52 miles, I have been missing some things on my daily drive to work, which I'll go on about in a little bit. But in terms of the engine, in terms of the performance, yes, it's still very good. Of course, there are quicker cars out there. I mean, look at your Golf Rs. But it's not the speed why you go for the Civic Type R. It's how it handles. It's how it delivers that power and how you can actually use the car on a track, or even, as I demonstrate here, on the public highway. And I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm just using what the car's got, and it will reward you. So yeah, when it comes to the engine and performance, it's good. There are better cars out there in terms of outright performance, but that's not the reason you buy a Civic Type R. No chance. So what's the ride, refinement and handling like in this Type R limited edition? Ride-wise, it feels a little bit firmer, a little bit stiffer than the regular Type R, the GT. But it's not really that uncomfortable. Now, when you get into the car and you start up and start driving, it defaults into sport mode. It doesn't really hold on to comfort, because that's exactly what you're going to be driving in for most of the time. But you just got to knock it down one in the drive mode select dial, and then you'll be driving in comfort. And in comfort mode, it's absolutely fine for day-to-day driving. It's, yeah, a little bit firm and a little bit unsettled at low speed, but it's not really that uncomfortable. I used to own a Civic Type S diesel, and in comfort mode this feels more comfortable than that car, which is a big surprise, and it shows as well how well Honda's engineers have worked on the suspension and dampers on the Type R. Now, if you do put it into sport mode, you get a few little red accents up here on the dashboard, but the ride really hasn't changed that much. It's a little bit firmer. If anything, I've got a little bit more response as well from the accelerator pedal, but it's not uncomfortable. These seats do a wonderful job of A, holding you in place, and B, just taking some of the vibrations out that you're experiencing from the road. And then if I go into R mode, which is the race mode, yes, on a poor road surface, by damn do you feel all the bumps and imperfections. You can feel all the little pebbles and stones that have been dropped on the ground. You can even tell if you've gone over a piece of gum that someone's flicked out the window. That's how firm and how sensitive the ride is. But again, it's not a massive negative, because don't forget, this car has been designed with the track in mind. So you're going to be driving it in R mode, so you can really use all of the Type R's capabilities. On the public highway, I'm going to say you can use about 60%, but I might need to ask Honda if I can actually use this on the track one day, because I'd love to be able to just fully exploit what the Type R LE has underneath it, all of that engineering for the track to good use. That's something I really want to do. But at the moment, I'm just driving it on the public highways, and in R mode, I'm actually on a road surface now which has been kind of shaved off so they can resurface it, and it's not that uncomfortable. There's a lot of tyre roar, but it's not that uncomfortable in terms of the ride quality. So just like the previous generation Type R, or should I say the pre-facelifted Type R, it's very comfortable when you got it in comfort mode, perfect for everyday driving. When you got it in R mode and you're on a rough or poor road surface, yes, that's when you can feel it's a little bit too firm and a bit too stiff for the road. But then again, perfect for the track. Now, the refinement levels here in the limited edition. So, soundproofing has been taken out of this car. We've lost a bit at the front, a bit in the ceiling, and a bit at the back. So when you start driving it, you can actually hear a bit more of what's going on behind you than you can, say, from the engine. Now, in terms of engine noise and engine notes, it's not the most rewarding of sounds, I'll be honest. It's a little bit characterless, if that's a word. Yeah, characterless. You just get a bit of noise coming from, you know, the engine, and it comes into the cabin, but it's not piped through the speakers. So that's one thing I'm really happy Honda haven't done. But yes, it hasn't got that little bit of character that you get from, say, a Hyundai i30N, where you get those pops. Granted, they are manufactured. But if it's the fact of, again, you're going down the track, you don't really care about the noise of the car. You just care about what it can do and how it's going to help you out. So the refinement levels in terms of the engine, yes, you can hear it, and when you put your foot down, you do get a bit more noise coming into the cabin. You do also get quite a bit of tyre roar as well coming in. Now, we've got Michelin's on this particular car. I'll put down as a subtitle what they are, and really impressive. In fact, I really love them when it comes to driving in the dry, especially when they're warmed up. I have found in the wet, they don't like it so much, and on a couple of days where I've been driving to work, and I've actually kind of made sure I'm in a safe and controlled environment, going around the corner and kind of accelerating as I do it in the wet, you can feel the car start to understeer, but it does actually feel very predictable. So at the same time, it feels nice and safe, so you know perhaps if you're on the track and it's a damp track or a wet track, you know kind of what limitations you've got with the performance underneath. And then finally, when it comes to kind of other noises coming into the cabin, yeah, there's a little bit of wind noise coming from the A-pillar and the wing mirrors, but you've got to be going really fast in order to hear them. It just seems to be that tyre roar and that bit of engine noise and out exterior noises coming into the cabin. But again, it's a track-focused car, so I wouldn't expect anything less. And that's the only thing I'll actually say is a negative with the limited edition, is because of that lack of soundproofing, the lack of an infotainment system. If you are using this as a daily drive, or you are driving it to the track in order to have a bit of fun, you've got to kind of agree with the fact of you're going to have lots of noise coming into the cabin, and you've got nothing to drone it out. You've got no sound system to pump in. Yes, if you've got a passenger with you, it's fine, but if you're driving around on a poor road surface, you're not really going to hear each other that much. So that's just, again, something to be aware of with the limited edition. I know I'm saying that as if this car is available, they're all sold out, but I would say go for the regular Type R, go for the regular GT or Sportline if you're going to be using your car as a daily commuter. So what's the handling like in the limited edition? Well, it was really good before, and it's even better now. This thing corners like nothing I've ever driven before, particularly front wheel drive. It is as flat as a pancake in here. It just has no lean or roll at all in the corners. It grips as well like an all-wheel drive car. You could almost imagine this being almost like a rally car for the road, because only in the wet have I noticed that this will understeer and act like a front wheel drive car. But on a warm day, when the tyres are nice and warm as well, oh baby, this does reward you. It is so good. One thing I've noticed compared to the pre-facelifted Type R I drove a couple of years ago is that the steering feels heavier in my hands. In fact, it kind of feels as though you've really got to manhandle this limited edition in order to get it to do what you want. And that's not a negative, that is a real positive, because you know with every millimetre that you turn of that wheel, you can feel what the front's doing. You are connected to the car, you're then connected to the road. You feel everything, and this is what a real hot hatch should be like. I drove a Golf GTI last year, I think it was kind of like the Club Sport version, and I felt so detached with the steering. It was so light and over-assisted compared to this. I couldn't believe it. In a heartbeat, I would go for the Type R every time because of the way it feels and the way it drives. You've also got cars out there like the GR Yaris, which have got the same kind of feeling, albeit that's four-wheel drive, where you're connected to the road, you're connected to the car, and you know everything that the car's doing. You just know that the engineers who did the R&D on this car, they've done their homework, they've done everything absolutely spot on and right, which is a brilliant thing, but also a scary thing, because we've got an all new Type R coming from the ground up. You're just kind of worried in the back of your skull, can it be as good as this? Or how can it be better than this? We're going to find out. But that's something I love with the Type R, is you are connected to the car. You are one with the car. And even though it's four-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, even though that there are four-wheel drive cars out there like the Golf R, and they are quicker, they don't feel half as good as this. This limited edition is definitely the perfect goodbye to the FK8. And then the brakes as well. We got these Brembo brakes, which surprisingly haven't squeaked at all for the week that I've had the limited edition. But they're just wonderful. They got the perfect amount of weight, perfect amount of responsiveness to them. If you give it a little light tap, you slow down. If you get a heavier tap, you do get a bit of a shunt. They're just absolutely perfect, especially for road driving, but I can imagine them being even more so for track driving. It's just, as a car, as a driving experience, it ticks all the boxes. This is one of the reasons why I really do love hot hatches. Now, granted, I don't review loads of them because in the UK we sell loads of hot hatches. Manufacturers don't need my help selling the car. This is really for me to kind of experience the limited edition and let you guys know what it's all about. And being in that position is a real privilege from my part. I definitely don't take this for granted, but getting these kind of experiences, driving these type of cars, are just wonderful. So, what are my thoughts on the Honda Civic Type R Limited Edition? Well, I think it's bloody brilliant. This is a perfect send-off for the FK8 Civic Type R, because this is arguably the best hot hatch you can buy. Now, yes, what Honda have done to kind of make this more track focused have made it a better driver's car, but the compromises that are there, yeah, are not going to be for everyone. Like I said, I'd happily go for just a regular Type R because that still drives and handles brilliantly, but I would love my air conditioning. I would like to have my music playing in the cabin whilst I'm on my drive to work. In terms of everyday driving, it is very comfortable. It is actually a very nice commuter car. It's just a little bit firmer, a little bit stiffer compared to the regular GT. But yes, as a send-off for this generation of Civic Type R, for the 10th generation Civic, this is absolutely brilliant. It's a perfect way to say thank you. But all we got to do now is hope that the next generation of Civic Type R is not just as good as this. Somehow Honda have got to better it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the results. So everyone, I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Honda Civic Type R Limited Edition. As always, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and hit that bell notifications icon to let you know when I, Dave the Auto Bear, bring out a new video. If you've got any questions about the Civic Type R and my time with it, please put them down in the comments section below. And of course, don't forget to follow on social media as well. And in the meantime, guys, have yourselves a great and wonderful day, and I will catch you all in the next video. So take care, everybody, and bye-bye. I'm not going to stick my thumb up just yet. Look on this lovely road. Oh, oh. Yes, take care everyone, and bye-bye.